Most people don't believe in the supernatural until it breathes on their neck. I never had that luxury. Since I was a child, the world always felt off. Like the veil between what is and what shouldn't be was thinner for me. The shadows moved when I looked away. Whispers found me in empty rooms. And sometimes, just sometimes, I'd wake in the dead of night certain, absolutely certain, that something was staring at me from the corner of the room. My parents would brush it off, saying, "It's just a dream," or "You have such an imagination." But it never felt like dreams. Dreams don't follow you when you're awake. There was one time I must have been 7. I was playing with blocks in the hallway. The sun had just set. I looked up and saw a dark silhouette move past the doorway into the kitchen. I remember calling out, thinking it was my dad, but no one answered. I walked into the kitchen. Nothing. No one. But the chair at the head of the table was slowly rocking. That was the first time I remember feeling it. That gnawing tension in the air, like the room itself was holding its breath. I never told anyone about the rocking chair, but from that day on, I started sleeping with the hallway light on. Years passed. The experiences continued. Quiet footsteps behind me, radios flipping channels on their own, cold spots in the house, even during the summer. They weren't constant, but they never fully stopped. I learned to live with it. I learned not to react. I believed if I didn't acknowledge it, maybe it wouldn't grow stronger. But I was wrong. Because what waited for me, the night I fell asleep on the sofa, wasn't something I could ignore. It was a regular Thursday. I was in my early 20s, working 2 jobs and exhausted more days than not. That night, I came home, tossed my keys on the counter, and collapsed onto the living room sofa. I didn't even bother changing clothes. I remember the room being dim, the TV still playing quietly, some infomercial or late-night comedy rerun. My eyes closed. Sleep took me fast, too fast. When I opened my eyes again, the world looked wrong. Everything in the room was exactly where it should be. Coffee table, the coat hanging on the wall, the half-empty glass of water on the floor. But I couldn't move. Not an inch. I tried to sit up. Nothing. My limbs felt frozen, pressed into the cushions like the weight of 1,000 stones held me down. Panic started to rise in my chest. I'd experienced sleep paralysis before, waking up but unable to move, seeing strange things in the room. But this time felt different, as if whatever presence had lingered on the edges of my childhood had finally stepped fully into the light. I shifted my eyes left, right, scanning the room. And then, somehow, my head moved. It snapped to the left suddenly, like it wasn't mine, as if something had allowed me to look, but only there. And that's when I saw him. He was standing halfway in the hallway, where the shadows met the glow of the kitchen light. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the dark, a coat on a hanger, a shadow falling the wrong way. But then he moved, and I realized he wasn't a shadow at all. He was a man, or the shape of one. Tall, rail-thin, with impossibly long black hair hanging over his shoulders like dripping strands of ink. His face was stark white, unnaturally pale, as if it had never felt sun or life. But what made my blood turn to ice were the lines. Thick, black, painted lines running down his cheeks, and his eyes, jet black, glossy, with no pupils, no whites, just an endless void. We locked eyes, and I swear to God, he looked surprised, as if he wasn't expecting me to see him, as if I wasn't supposed to be conscious yet. The corner of his mouth twitched. He tilted his head, slowly, curiously, like an animal examining prey that just barked back. I tried to scream. I tried to close my eyes. Nothing happened. The air turned thick, vibrating with a low hum I felt in my bones. I could hear my heart hammering in my ears, but I couldn't feel it beat. He took a step forward, and then another. Still staring, still tilting his head, still confused. It was as though he was trying to figure something out, like I wasn't behaving the way I was supposed to. And then, without warning, he stopped. The hum ceased. My fingers twitched. I blinked, and he was gone. When I finally sat up, my lungs burned like I'd been underwater. The room was dead silent, not just quiet, sterile, like all sound had been vacuumed out. Even the television, still flickering in the corner, had gone mute. I scanned the hallway. Nothing. No shadow. No movement. But that didn't matter, because the terror hadn't left with him. It had embedded itself in me. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat on the couch until morning. I told no one. How do you explain something like that? So I buried it, like all the other strange things, deep in that mental box labeled, just forget it. But I couldn't, because something in that moment was different. Something looked back. And over time, I began to realize the worst part. He was aware of me, and that meant he could come back.